Hi, this is Rosie, live from our booth at the International Broadcasting Convention in Amsterdam. Every half an hour I'm going to talk to a new person in the industry, and right now standing next to me is Rahat, CEO of Quidich. Hi Rahat.
Hello, how are you doing, Rosie?
I'm good, how are you?
Very well, having a good IBC.
Are you having fun?
Yes, yeah? It's exciting to be back at a real event and not having to meet people virtually.
Yeah,
so I think that's been one of the most exciting parts of just coming to Amsterdam.
You've been to IBC before?
Yes, this is my 6th IBC.
Okay. So you're exhibiting with Quidich?
Yes, yeah. Quidich Innovation Labs is the company that I work with.
Okay, and you're specialized in VR and AR in sports?
So we're a company that specializes in enhancing the sports broadcast. So we use augmented reality as one of the tools, but we do a lot of different pieces of technology. So we've got drones with AR, we've got buggy cameras that go around. We do player tracking. So as the players are moving on the field, we can track them in real time and show their real positions.
Yeah. What's the best thing about VR and AR for the experience for people?
So I think at the end of the day, all we're trying to do as broadcasters and as technology creators is really enhance the experience of the viewer sitting at home. At the end of the day, it is really about the storytelling of somebody sitting at home who's watching the game. What can you really do as a technology solution or as a visual experience that really enhances that person's experience? And I think what AR is able to do is it's really able to take, let's say a drone shot is usually of a cricket stadium or a football stadium where you can see this beautiful shot. But suddenly in the middle of that, if you add this augmented reality solution, it just adds so much life to the picture. So you've suddenly got very, very, intelligent insights, some analytics that are coming, maybe a heat map on top of the football pitch. Suddenly information that earlier wasn't accessible or visible to the viewer is now visible in a way that they can understand the sport better.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest examples is what we do for player tracking in cricket. It actually solved the storytelling gap where the viewers had no idea about how fielding positions work in the sport because there was no camera that was wide enough to be able to show the whole field. And suddenly now this AR graphic pops up and it shows you exactly where all of these players are, and it very clearly tells the viewers exactly what's going on at that time from a fielding strategy perspective. And I think it's those small solutions that really incrementally add the quality of the broadcast and the storytelling of the broadcast.
And why focus on sports and not entertainment?
So I think for us, sports has been something that from a passion perspective has been really, really high in the organization. I think the three things that the organization, most people in the organization are very excited about.
It's a condition to get hired, you gotta love sports.
Yes, so my co-founder Gaurav is a race car driver himself. And there's this within the organization between sport, technology and creativity. I think those are the three pillars that we've got in the organization. There's a lot of passion towards it. And I think what we're able to provide as these interesting tools that we're building, it's the proudest moment is when you're sitting at home and actually watching it and seeing that, this is really impacting how the sport is being told and communicated to the viewers.
And would you say, how is the performance of AR and VR? What's the speed of its performance? Do you feel like it's going too slow? Because in my personal opinion, I haven't really seen much in the Belgian industry, at least. Why?
So I would separate the two out. I would say augmented reality has arrived. Most big broadcasters that have budgets are now doing either augmented reality in their pre-shows or post-shows as analytical tools in their studio, or the larger budgets are actually doing augmented reality on the spider cam or on the drone in their production as well. So augmented reality as a broadcast solution has arrived quite a bit. Virtual reality, on the other hand, is still, kind of creeping in, and I think the limitation over there is really the distribution of devices. At the moment, you and me don't have a device sitting at the booth today, and I think 2 or 3 years from now, that transition, as hardware companies start building that hardware, the costs come down and it becomes more and more accessible to us. I think we'll suddenly see that transition happening. I think we're at that place now where, even at the IBC, you can feel that metaverse kind of arriving.
Yes.
It does seem to be the next obvious progression from what we saw as traditional TV going on to OTT a few years ago, and this IBC very clearly you can see all of so much happening on the cloud. I think that next transition is going to be from OTT to the metaverse, where it's going from 2D consumption to 3D consumption, and I think that's really when VR will pick up as a mode of consumption where you can actually go into the game, watch it from wherever you want, and really be in the stadium while you're actually at home.
maybe in a couple of years this automated studio will have VR and like augmented reality will, knock on wood.
Yeah, I truly feel that the
yeah.
future of sports consumption really lies in immersivity, because we are all people that, the reason that binds us together with sport is that connection, is that feeling of going to the stadium and getting crazy with your friends and your family. And the real way of being able to do that, as opposed to sitting in front of a TV just with 2 or 3 people, is when you go into an immersive environment and you can now go in with all your friends from across the globe and really experience that. So I really believe that that's kind of where the future is definitely headed. How soon we get there is what we need to find out.
Is there other challenges except for cost that slows down the performance process?
For virtual reality?
Yes.
I think it's more of an infrastructure development that's required. I think the transition from linear TV to OTT, even though it was a very obvious one, when we all got into mobile phones, it seemed very obvious. But for the entire infrastructure to kind of evolve, all of the different companies to come together, distribution to get streamlined, video codecs to get streamlined, server systems to get streamlined, all of that takes time. And I think now is when we've really reached that point where you can truly see the cost of rights being almost the same for TV and for OTT. So that transition is never going to be an overnight transition. And I feel like over the next few years, we will see a lot of capital being invested into that, three-dimensional consumption, not just of sport, but of broadcast overall. And I think it is going to be that cycle that we saw with the OTT happen again with three-dimensional consumption. And I think hardware is going to be the factor that kind of drives it. The more people that have it, but it is going to be that whole layer of infrastructure that needs to be built.
Are you also on the lookout at IBC for that infrastructure or inspiration, future partners?
Yes, absolutely. We're looking at both things. We're looking at partners from the point of view of existing clients that we have and what can we provide additionally to them as technology. And a lot of the time that I'm spending is also to be able to see, okay, what's next? Because with the way things are changing today, within 3 to 5 years, an entire industry can be looking completely different. And I think this is the kind of place that you want to be at, to be able to really see where those trends are going, how people are thinking, what seems to be the next obvious jump. And, it's good to meet all the clients and partners all under one roof in a place like IBC.
Yeah, of course. And like COVID was an excellent opportunity to experiment with VR as we couldn't go out. How did you experience with Quidich the pandemic?
So I think it was an interesting one. I think definitely the access to people sitting at home and wanting to just consume more and more definitely increased. I think from our geography, the VR adoption didn't increase as much as we would have liked. But I think it is a matter of time. It seems like that transition is happening. We can clearly see a lot of companies now investing a lot of money into that space to be able to have a virtual reality feed and so on. So it seems like it is coming. I think COVID could have accelerated it more than it did, but it has definitely accelerated the transition onto OTT platforms, and that we can very clearly see.
Okay. So my last question is, what do you hope for the short-term future to happen for Quidich?
So I think what I'm most excited about is to be able to enable immersive consumption of content onto the last mile device. I feel like with a lot of sports that we work with today, there is a lot of opportunity for interactivity. There's a lot of opportunity for taking the data that we already have, whether it's player tracking data, whether it's analytical information about a particular moment in the field. We have a lot of data and a lot of information now about what's going on in that moment, which is not accessible to the viewers. And I feel like the fact that the viewers are different in terms of how they consume sport. There are some consumers who just want to look at a piece of sport and just kind of lose themselves in it and just watch what's happening. But then there are the others who will always have a second device and they want to be able to interact and know what's going on. And I think giving that flexibility and giving that control to the viewer and saying that, okay, you can consume this piece of content, this piece of sport that you really believe in exactly the way you like, and have exactly the amount of immersivity and control as you go through that experience of watching that game, I think is really where a lot of our time is going to be spent, and we're really excited to build more and more solutions for enabling that for the fans.
I can feel the enthusiasm, and well, I'm rooting for Quidich too. And thank you, Rahat, for hopping in our studio today, and enjoy IBC.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.